Okay, a very good morning, everyone. In today's session, we are going to get started with control flow statements in Python. So let's quickly get started with official reference. I would like to share my screen with all the participants who are connected with us. Objectives of the day is to explore the concepts of control flow statements in Python programming language, and this is going to be your first step towards programming. Okay. As per official documentation by Python, under section 3.2, today we are going to get started with first step towards programming. Let me just quickly share the link with all of you so that you will be able to refer to this article later. So here is the reference article from where we are going to start. docs.python.org tutorial introduction.html, and we are starting with the concept of first step towards programming. Now, when it comes to first step towards programming, as you all can see, Python is not just used only for writing A+B programs, mathematical programs, and representation of data. You can do a lot more with Python programming language. You can write complicated tasks. One of the first tasks which we are going to get started with is we are going to start with while loops today, which is considered as a control flow statement. And using the concept of while loop, the first objective is to print a Fibonacci series. So let me just quickly keep it on one side of the screen, and we are going to get started with Google Colab on another browser so that you all will be able to execute your codes. Let's go for it. So here, start Google Collaboratory. I'm going to use collab.research.google.com. We are going to create a new script. And in the script, the first objective we are going to implement is we are going to implement while loop. Okay. Using while loop, we are going to print a Fibonacci series, and you are going to understand a lot of stuff with Python today. Okay. You can name your notebook as control flow statements in Python. Let's just change it to control flow statements. Okay, now let's get started. We are going to connect to Google Compute Engine backend. Once we are connected to Google Compute Engine backend, we will be able to parse our code with Python programming language with Python interpreter. So the first objective is to implement control flow statements. Okay. When it comes to control flow statement, there are multiple loops like while loop, for loop available, as well as there are decision-making syntaxes available like if-else condition. So we are going to use all of them. But before that, we are going to take an objective wherein we are going to print a Fibonacci series, which is displayed to you on right-hand side of the screen. Now here, first thing I would like to let you know, you can create multiple variables in single line in Python. Okay, and how you can do that? Let's say you have two values. Consider 10, 20. Let's say we have two values. We can put 10 into variable 1 and 20 into variable 2. Okay, so let's say you can quickly specify a statement like this: a comma b is equal to 10 comma 20. Now, what does this mean? This actually means that you can actually store value number 10 into a variable, and you can actually store value number 20 into b variable. Okay, can you all see that? So you can specify multiple variables in single line, as well as you can quickly specify the value which you want to store on that variable. So let's just quickly check that. So once I execute this statement, I would like to print the value of a comma b. So when I print this value of a comma b, you can see that value of a and b is printed. Okay. There is another way to print this. What you can do is you can quickly specify value of a is %d and B is %D. Followed by, you can use a mod sign and you can specify the value of A, comma B. Okay, you can specify the value of A, comma B. Is that clear? As well as you can also use it like this. Let's say value of A, you can quickly print it like this. So when you run this, value of A is 10, and you can again print like this. Value of B is %D, %B. So when you run this, you're going to get the value of B is 20. Is that clear? So you can store multiple values into a single variable. Now what we are going to do, using this, we are going to print Fibonacci series. What exactly Fibonacci series is? Fibonacci series is something when you are going to add two elements and you are going to put the sum of those two elements onto as the next number in sequence. Okay. So let me just quickly give you a quick introduction to what Fibonacci series is. Fibonacci series. Let's quickly use Wikipedia for a quick reference. So a Fibonacci series is a series of numbers in which each number is the sum of the two preceding numbers. Okay. So let's say you have got 1 and 1. So once you do 1 plus 1, you're going to get 2. Then you're going to do 2 plus 1, you're going to get 3. 3 plus 2, 5 plus 3, you're going to get 8, and so on. Is that clear? So I hope everybody knows what Fibonacci series is. So we are going to use while loop and we are going to print the concept of Fibonacci series. Okay. Now here there is a condition you can see. There is a while loop at the right hand side here. I'll quickly explain you the concept first and then we are going to implement it. So you can see that you can quickly specify a while loop in this format. While is a keyword and A smaller than 10 is a condition. Followed by, there is a colon sign available over here which defines the scope of a program. Okay, scope of, this defines scope of loop. Okay, so let me just quickly define this. These two colons, these define scope of loop. Okay, now once you define a scope of loop, you have to actually leave a 2 indentation space so that the next statement which you want to specify within the loop is considered as a child statement. Okay, you don't need to specify any curly braces in Python programming language. Just you can start the scope of your condition or start the scope of your loop condition using this colon sign, followed by you can leave 2 indentation space. Okay, so this is 2 indentation space, and let me just write that over here. This is known as a 2 indentation space. Okay, so once you specify a 2 indentation space, the second statement, consider all these statements like print followed by A and B, all these statements will be considered as the child statement. Okay, and these are considered to be within the while loop. Let's call it as child statement. Okay, and this one, the while condition, this will be considered as a parent statement. So in Python, you can quickly define scope using double colon, followed by you can leave 2 indentation space so that the next statement falls under the parent statement. Okay, this is what we are going to do. Now, so here you can see that we have specified a condition that we are going to print the Fibonacci series up to number 10. Okay, as well as we are going to print the value of A from where the first value will start. Then what we are going to do, we are going to put the value of B into A and we are going to put the value of A plus B into B. Okay, is that clear? So now you can see that here you're going to have A value. So initially B was 1, so A is going to have B stored into it. Okay, initially the value of B is 1 because we have initialized it here. value of B is 1. So when this loop will run, for the very first time, 1 will be stored into A, and value of 0 plus 1, which is again 1, will be stored into B. Okay. The loop continues. In the next line, in A, you're going to have 1 again stored. You're going to add the value of A plus B, which is both are 1. So 1 plus 1 is going to be 2. So in B, you are going to have 2 stored, and so on. Okay. So this is how you can quickly specify a while condition and you can test your program. So let's get started with writing this kind of statement. So let's print the Fibonacci series. Okay. Let me just quickly check. I have got a message. Okay. I'm sharing recording privileges to all the participants. Okay. Now here. So as you all understand, what is Fibonacci series? Fibonacci series, you all understand. The next element is going to be the sum of two preceding elements. Okay. So let's get started and let's write a program here. So once we write a program for Fibonacci series, let's say we are going to initialize the variables. Initialize A and B. So when you initialize A and B, consider you're going to initialize A with 0 and B with 1. Okay. In the second stage, you're going to specify the condition. Okay. So as per the condition is concerned, I would like to print Fibonacci up to 20. Okay. Let's say we are going to print Fibonacci series up to value 20. So for this, we are going to specify a while loop. You can quickly specify a while loop using while keyword, followed by you can specify the condition. Okay. So since we are going to print the value A, we are going to check the condition until A is smaller than 20. We are going to run this loop. Now, as you can see on line number 9, I have given 2 indentation spaces. This will specify that the line number 9 will be a child statement to line number 8. Okay. Now let's see. So what we are going to do, we are going to print the value of A once we are done. So initially we are going to get the value printed as 0. Okay. Followed by we are going to add 2 preceding numbers. So we have to add the value of A plus B and we have to store it into that variable. So what we are going to do, we are going to specify the value of A and B. So initially the value of B, okay, is going to be stored into A. B is 1 initially, so we are going to get the last preceding value into A, as well as we are going to add the value of A and B and we are going to store it into B. Okay. So as you all can see, when we are printing this Fibonacci series, B value is going to be stored into A variable and the value of A plus B, this is going to be stored into B variable. Okay, is that clear? All the people, all the participants, those who are connected with us online, is that clear with all of you? Please confirm me on chat. So once we are done with this, let's quickly run this. When we run this statement, now you can see that you're going to get a Fibonacci series printed. Okay. So now we have got the Fibonacci series printed up till 13, and this is because 13 plus 8 will cross the value of 20, hence that value is not printed. Okay. Now, so this is how what you can do is you can quickly specify a while keyword, you can specify a condition, and you can define this line of statements within the scope of while loop. Is that clear? Let me just quickly check back on chat. Great. Now let's go to the next line of code. Okay. What next? So you have got to see while statement and you have printed a Fibonacci series. Now we are going to read the documentation of while loop quickly so that you will be able to implement more such operations. So here you can see that the current example introduces several new features. So the first line which you have assigned in your code has multiple assignment. Okay, you can specify multiple values into the assignment. Second thing is the while loop executes as long as the condition remains true. So we have defined a condition until and unless value of a is greater than 20, we are going to run the loop. Okay, in Python, like in C programming, any non-integer value is true, 0 is false. Okay, the condition may also be a string or list value. In fact, any sequence, anything with a non-zero length is true, empty sequences are false. Okay, as well as you can use different signs like less than, you can use greater than, you can use equal to sign, you can use less than or equal to, you can use greater than equal to, and you can also use not equal to. These are the important operators which you have to use within your while conditions. Is that clear? Then finally, you have the body of the loop, and the body of the loop is indented. Indentation in Python is way of grouping the statements. At the interactive prompt, you have to type a tab or space for each indented line, and generally in Python programming, 2 indentation spaces are used. Okay. In practice, you will prepare more complicated input for Python with a text editor. So always try to give 2 spaces. Okay, use 2 spaces for indentation. Finally, you have the print function, which can write a value and it can print it on standard output console. I hope this is clear with all the participants. You all understand what print statement is and how you can do that. Now here, there is a condition printing a Fibonacci series up till the value of 1000. Okay, so let's go for it. Let's print a Fibonacci series up till a value of 1000. So in order to do that, what exactly you all can do? Let's quickly write a program. Come on, get started everyone. You have to write Fibonacci series up to 1000 value. So let's go for it. You're going to initialize 2 value, a comma b. Let's initialize that with 0 and 1. You're going to specify while condition. While a is less than 1000, you're going to print the value of a, followed by you're going to put the value of a and b. You're going to store b into a and the value of a plus b into b. And once you run, you're going to get Fibonacci series printed up till the value 1000. Okay, I hope this is clear to all the participants. So now you are comfortable with the following concepts. You all are comfortable with the concepts like you can perform multiple assignments. You know how while loops are defined. You know how to define the condition. You know how to print the statement. And again, you know how you can perform multiple assignments onto a variable and you can get that value printed out. Okay, is that clear? Now, let's go to the next step. So let's open a new code cell. Now here what you're going to do. So these are the conditions for while. So while is simple. Okay. Clear? Now let's see. Now what we are going to do, we are going to proceed with more important operations with conditions. Okay. So let's get back to introduction. We are done with first step towards programming. Now we are going to explore more control flow statements. Okay. So now here, when it comes to control flow statements, besides, as the documentation says, besides while loop, okay, as you all can see, besides the while statement, Python knows the usual control flow statements known from other languages, like if-else conditions, okay, do-while conditions. Do-while actually doesn't exist, but if-else conditions are there. So what you can do, you can see that the most well-known statement, the most well-known conditional statement is the if statement, okay. So here is an example which we are going to print. So it says, initially, we are going to take an input from a user. We are going to convert that input into integer and we are going to store it into a variable x. Okay. Suppose value 42 is defined. Here there is a if-else condition defined, wherein if x value is smaller than 0. Okay, it is going to define print negative changed to 0. Okay, else if. So in Python, we don't have an else if. We call it as ELIF, elif. Okay, else if stands for elif in Python. Okay, followed by the last statement could be the else statement, which you can print. Okay, so now we are going to get started with if else conditions. Let's go for it and let's test it. So we are going to use if, else if, and else conditions in Python. Okay, now let's see. So first task is to use an if condition. Okay, we're going to use if condition. Okay, okay, let's say. So consider we have a problem statement. Let's say we have some student scores. Okay, we have some student scores here. Let's say if a student has got marks between 90 to 100, we're going to call it A score. If he has got between 80 to 90, we're going to call it as B score. If we have 70 to 80, we are going to call it as C score. If we have 60 to 70, okay, we're going to call it as D. And if you have 50 to 60, you're going to have, if you get a value between 50 to 60, you're going to call E. And if it is below 50, you're going to call it as fail. Okay, so you can consider it somewhat like this: 81, 91, 81, 71, 61, 51, kind of this. Okay, is that clear? So we are going to use if condition only in order to print these values. So how do we make use of if conditions? Let's have a look. So let me add a new code cell and I'm going to define it here. So let's take input from a user. Enter marks. Okay. So when you call this input statement and when you run this statement, it is going to ask you a question like this: enter marks. Okay. Now let's say if I press 20 as mark and I press enter, so that value will come into output. So as of now here you can see that enter marks and 20 is attached together. They look like they are attached together. So we are going to put in a space here. Okay. Once you put a space, and let's say this time if I press 20 and I press enter, so I'm going to get it represented well along with a space. So it looks sober. Is that clear? So 20 value. So whenever you take an input from a user, it is always going to be in a string format. The default output of input function is going to be a string statement. So we need to convert it into integer in case if it is numbers, or else any of the type, whatever type we want to use in. Okay. So since marks is going to be a number, I'm going to change the output from string to number. This process is known as typecast. Okay, we call it as typecast. And the meaning of typecast is change type from one form to other. Okay, so here what we did, we changed string, sorry, I'll call it as typecasted string into integer. Is that clear? So if I run this now, this time you can see when I press a mark 20, it will not be a string, it is going to be an integer. Okay, you can see that the double quotes have been removed this time. So the string which you have taken from input is now converted into an integer. So all the participants, those who are connected, are you able to understand this? Is this concept clear? Typecasting in Python, you can change the type of one data type into other data type. Okay, now let's see. So I'm going to store this value into, let's call it as marks. Okay, I've stored this value into marks. And if I print the value of marks entered, it's going to be marks. So if I print this value like this, you can see that if I press 20 here or 30 here, so I'm going to get marks entered is 30. So this is how you can ask for a user input. Okay, everyone. I hope this is clear to all the participants. Now, let's just quickly write the if conditions now. Okay, use the conditions to print grade. Okay, let's see. Okay, use the conditions, fundamentals. Just a quick introduction to if-else condition for all. So what am I going to do? I'm going to take a user input and I'm going to call it as enter marks. I'm going to convert this value into integer and I'm going to store it into a variable known as marks. And I'm going to check if marks greater than 90. If marks greater than 90, I'm going to print grade A. Okay. I'm going to print grade A. That's it. One single condition I'm testing as of now. So if I run this, it is going to ask marks from me. I said the marks is 93. Okay, I say, let's say the marks is 93 and I press enter. So now you can see that as soon as I specified the marks is 93, the if condition matched and you have gone to the grouped statement, which is a child statement for this if-else block, and we got grade A printed. Okay, but suppose marks is less than 90. Let's say I put something like marks as 89 and I press enter, so nothing happens because this time the condition was false. This condition was false, hence I was not able to go into the child statement, or else within the scope of this if-else block I cannot go because the condition did not match. Is that clear? Now, so we got A printed. Now let's say we'll add a little more conditions. If marks is greater than 80, okay, I'm going to get print grade B. Okay, if marks is greater than 80, I'm going to print grade B. Let's run this. So this time, if I input the value as 89 and I press enter, you can see that this time you have got grade B printed because we got marks, we checked marks is greater than 90, the condition was false. So we came to the next statement, we again checked if marks is greater than 80, yes, the condition matched, so grade B was printed. Okay. In the same way, let's say we're going to call if marks is greater than 70, we are going to print grade C. Okay, let's go for it. If marks greater than 60, you're going to print grade D. Okay, then if you're again going to check if marks greater than 50, you're going to call it as grade E, whatever it is. Else, you're going to print grade fail. Okay, is that clear? So we have got a code with if conditions and else conditions. Okay, so if none of these conditions match, we are going to get the output as fail. In this case, all the conditions will be checked. Okay, in this case, all these conditions will be checked. Okay, now let's just test it. So when we run this, let's say I have put a marks 63 and I press enter. So I get grade D and grade E. Why?
Both the conditions got satisfied.
Both the conditions got satisfied, but that shouldn't be true because only one of these conditions should match because the value is 64. Okay, and I have got both of these conditions matched. Can you see that? So that's an error. So what we can do in order to avoid such conditions, we use else if. As I have already told you, in this case, when you use only if blocks, all the conditions are matched. Okay. When the conditions are matched, here you can see that here the marks was greater than 60. This condition matched. We got into printing the grade D. Okay. Then we checked if this marks is greater than 50. Yes, the marks was greater than 50 also. Okay, hence both these conditions matched. Now let's say, suppose if I write a statement somewhat like this, let's run this code again. If I say I've got marks like 92, okay, if I've got marks 92, and if I press enter, you can see that all these grades will match A, B, C, D because the program is written in such a way. So this is just to ensure that all your conditions, when you specify if conditions, all the conditions are matched. Okay, is that clear? So instead, what we can do is, you can use smaller than sign here, but when you use smaller than sign also, you're going to land up into such cases, or else you have to specify a range. If the value is greater than this value and smaller than this value, then you will be able to match up the conditions well. Okay, are you feeling good? Okay. So now you can see that when you specify if conditions only, all the condition gets matched. Okay, the conditions are matched. But when you specify an if and elif condition, if one condition matches, then it's not going to check the other condition. Is that clear? Okay, now let's see. Now what we'll do, let's copy the same block and let's use it with else if conditions now. Okay, we're going to copy this block and we're going to call check if conditions, if and elif conditions. Okay, so when I put this output here, when I put this code here, I'm going to enter marks and I'm going to change the if statements to else if statements. Okay, and finally I have got the else statement. Now let's test it. So when I run this now and I put in a value, let's say 92, and I press enter. Now this time I have only got grade A printed. Is that clear? So this is the difference between if else conditions as well as if else if and else condition. I hope this is clear to all the participants. So when you only specify if conditions, all those conditions will be matched. But when you only want a single condition to be tested, and if it's true, then it's not going to check the second one. Is that clear? So you can use if else if in that cases. Okay. Now let's say if I put in a value, let's say I put in a value, let's say 78, and I press enter. So I'm going to get grade C printed. Is this clear to all the participants, those who are connected? Everyone, please confirm me if the concept is clear to all of you. Please confirm me on chat. If you have any questions, please ask me. Okay. Here are the two conditions which we just checked: the if conditions and the difference of if conditions with if and else if statements. Okay. So now you understand how you can use if block as well as else if block also. Is that clear? You can do this match with strings also. Now let's say we're going to write another program. Okay. Let's say you need to write a program this time wherein take a color code from user and print color name. Okay, somewhat like this. You have to print it. So what exactly you're going to do? Let's say the color codes will be R is equal to red, B is equal to blue, G is equal to green, O is equal to orange. Okay, is that clear? Now let's take a user input. You're going to go enter color code and let's save it into color underscore code. Is that clear? Now we're going to check if color underscore code is equal to R. We're going to print red color. Okay. Let's say again, if color underscore code is equal to B, then you're going to print blue color. Then if color underscore code is equal to G, you're going to print green color. And the next would be color underscore code, and this is going to be O. Consider O, orange. You're going to print orange color. Okay, is that clear to all the participants? We have got the color code and we have got the code written with if and if conditions. Let's run this. So when I run this and I put a color code, let's say I put B color code and I press enter, it says it's blue color. Okay. Clear? Let's run that again, test it. Let's say if I put, let's say color code is G. I call color code as G. So I've got green color. So all the conditions are matched in this case. So you can do if-else conditions checked with numbers, as well as you can do that with strings. You can do that with Boolean type as well. Okay. Clear? Let's test that with Boolean. Is that clear to all the participants still here? Please confirm me on chat so that we can continue next. Deepika, Kays, Neha Kumari, Sresh Mehta, Vanshi Tiwari, please confirm if the concepts are clear. Great. Okay, now let's see. Let's add a new code cell. Now when we add a new code cell here, if conditions using Boolean. Okay. Let's say I've got a result. Okay. and I said result is true, I will say if result print the result is true. Okay, so let's say if you have a Boolean variable which is true in nature and you can quickly put that with if condition, you can quickly grab the result. Okay, let's test that. So when I do that, we have got the statement printed. Okay, the result is true. In case if we have got a method whose result is false, if I run this, we're not going to get that result. So we can quickly define it something like this: else print the result is false. So when false is specified, we're going to get the result is false. In case if the result is true, and if we test that condition, we get the result is true. Okay, is that clear? So you guys have got to know how if statements work. So you can see that you can use an input string, you can print the value. So now can you print this kind of code? Do you understand each and every line here? So this is to take a user input. You have got the output printed on standard output console. We have checked the condition. If x is smaller than 0, you define the scope. You put an indentation space wherein you change the value to 0. You printed a statement. Then you check if the value is equal to 0. You're going to give it 0. If the value is equal to 1, you're going to print single. If otherwise, if the value is greater than 1, you're going to print more. Is that clear? I think the statement is clear to everyone. Okay. Now here, there are some more statements to understand here. So this block specifies there can be 0 or more else if parts, and the else part is optional. Okay. So you can have multiple if conditions. You can have if and multiple else if conditions, as well as you can have an else part as well in a program. But it is not necessary that every time you have to define the else part in the program. It's not necessary. Okay. The keyword ELIF is short for else if. Is that clear? In Python, we define elif, and is useful to avoid excessive indentation. And if-elif sequence is a substitute for switch or case statement found in other languages. Okay. So like in Java, we have a switch statement. Okay. With switch, we define if case is equal to 1, execute this block. If case is equal to 2, execute that block. So in Python programming, we don't have switch statements. Okay. We don't have a switch and case block. Instead, we have if and else if conditions. Okay. Is that clear? Now, so let's proceed to the next segment of this code. Okay, I have a question. सर यहाँ पे आपने if यूज किया है, फिर भी एक कंडीशन एज आउटपुट शो हो रही है, बट लास्ट टाइम नो आउटपुट नंबर ऑफ आउटपुट शो हो रहे थे. या सो हियर दिस इज बिकॉज यहाँ पे बाकी कंडीशंस मैच नहीं हो रही हैं. अगर यहाँ पे मैच होती ही कंडीशंस, जैसे हमने यहाँ पे स्ट्रिंग लिया है, यहाँ पे जब सारे स्टेटमेंट प्रिंट हो रहे थे इफ के, अगर आप यहाँ पे देखें तो यहाँ पे हमने काउंट वैल्यू लिया था. लेट्स से हमने काउंट वैल्यू लिया 92. सो 92 इज ग्रेटर देन 90, कंडीशन वाज ट्रू, हेंस दिस गॉट प्रिंटेड. देन 92 is greater than 80, condition got true, B was printed. Okay. 92 was greater than 70, C was printed. Okay. 92 was greater than 60, D was printed. 92 was greater than 50, E was printed. So all these 5 conditions matched. Okay. But when I have defined the same statement here, okay, in these cases, now you can see that if I have taken a value as G, so I check if G value is equal to R, it said no, G value is not equal to R. Okay. Is G equal to B? No. The condition was not true, hence it didn't got into this block. If G is equal to G, yes, this condition got true, hence we got green color printed. Okay. And finally, again this condition was checked. If G is equal to O, so it said no, G is not equal to O, hence only green color was printed in this case. But the condition, all the conditions were checked. Okay, all the conditions were checked. And in order to make you understand that, what I can do is I'll put it like G again. Let's say I again put a G condition here. Okay, just to ensure that both of these blocks, green color as well as orange color, both the conditions will execute. Okay, let's see. So if I run this statement here and I put a code here like G and I press enter, you can see that green color and orange color both are printed. Is that clear? But in case if I replace that with else if, so only one condition will be checked. Okay. As soon as one condition is checked, it is not going to match it with other conditions. So if I run this statement here, and if I again put the condition as G, so only the first condition which matched is going to be printed. Clear? Deepika, is the question clear? Great. Okay, now let's go to the next statement. So let's get back to the next code block. And we'll go here. The next conditional says the for statements, which you guys need to use. So as you all can see, the for statement in Python differs a bit from what you may be used in C or Pascal. Okay. Here, for condition does not have that appropriate syntax like integer I is equal to 0, then you specify the condition, then you specify increment or decrement operator. Here, it is a little different. So we are going to see how we are going to implement that. Rather than always iterating over an arithmetic progression like an increment or decrement of numbers, or giving the user the ability to define both the iteration step and halting condition, Python for statement iterates over the items of any sequence. Okay. Consider you have a list of elements. Okay. So what you can do is, using for loop, you can quickly check each element available in that iterable. Okay. I'll show you certain examples in the order that they appear in the sequence. Okay. So I'm going to give you a quick example for this, how for conditions work. Okay. So the condition is something like this: for, okay, variable in iterable. Okay. Iterable is something like a sequence or a list, okay, over which we can iterate and we can get all the values out. Okay. Let's say I'll create an iterable. Okay. Consider this as an iterable list. So I'm going to put in a values like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All these values are here. Okay. Now what is going to happen when we specify for loop? Every time one element from the iterable is going to be stored onto a variable. So for the first time, 1 is going to be stored. Then second is going to be stored into the same variable. Then third is going to be stored into the same variable. Then fourth is going to be stored onto the same variable. Okay. And finally, we can perform certain operations on it. And I'll show you what does that mean and how it works. So let's say, I'm going to define for I. Let's consider this variable as I in iterable. Okay. So here we specify the scope. Now we are going to print the value of I. So on every step, okay, we are going to get one value stored into this I. So in the first step, 1 is going to be stored into I. In second step, 2 is going to be stored into I. In third step, third is going to be stored into I. Okay. Then in fourth step, fourth is going to be stored into I. and finally all these values will be printed, and so on, up till you get the last element. Is that clear? So the beauty of for loop in Python is it gives you this opportunity that not just increment and decrement operator, you can use for loop over the list of elements also. Okay, so you can see that all these elements 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 will go into I one by one, and you're going to get all these values printed. So let's just quickly test that. So if I run this, you can see that we have got each value printed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, can you see that? All these values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Every time, on every statement, on every loop, we have got all these values taken from the list and they have been printed. Okay, is that clear? Okay, I hope this is clear to everyone. Please confirm me on chat. Let's say if I change the sequence from here, if I put it like 3, 6, 8, 12, 41. So if I print this again, you will be able to observe that all the values in same sequence 1, 3, 6, 8, 12, 41, 7, 8 is printed. Okay. So with for loop, what you can do is you can quickly iterate over a list of elements. You can grab each element one by one into the variable and you can perform operations. So you can grab all these values and you can store all these values into I on every loop. Is that clear? On every step, you're going to get this value. Okay? All the students, those who are connected online, please confirm me on chat. Okay, now let's see. Suppose you have to implement a loop Is it increasing automatically? No, it's not increasing automatically. Here, it is actually whatever elements are available within the list, they are being extracted one by one. Okay, so you can, this is the beauty of Python, that you can execute for loop over an iterable element as well, and you can fetch each element out of that iterable. Iterable is something like a sequence wherein multiple elements are available, just like a list. Okay, so you can iterate over all the elements within that list. It is also considered as a for each loop for each element in the list. Okay, you can also call this statement as, let's consider, for each element in the list. Okay, clear? Let's say, I'll give you an example. For the same segment, let me give you an example. Okay, let's say. So now, I'll say, read all the scores from, let's say there is a cricket match happening. Okay, there's a cricket match happening. India has scored some runs per over. Okay, scores of first 10 overs is available in a list below. Okay, let's say there is a list. Okay, runs per over. Okay, let's say in first over we got 12 runs. In second over, we got 10 runs. In third over, we got 5 runs. Fourth over got maiden. Fifth over, we got 21. Sixth over, we got 16. Seventh over, we got 8. Eighth over, we got 10. Ninth over, we got 2. And then we got 36 left. 6 check. Okay, we got 6 sixes hit in a row. So these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 overs, and you have got runs per over. Okay. Now what I want, I would like add total score of India after 10 overs. You have to calculate the score. Okay. So what will be the approach? Approach will be something like this. Read all runs per over and add them. Okay. Let's say I'm going to create a variable known as total runs. Let's say initially total runs will be 0. Okay. Initialize total runs as 0. Now what am I going to do? I'm going to read all runs per over. So for this, I'm going to call for runs in runs per over. Okay. For runs taken per over. So run of every over is going to be fetched. So in the first attempt, we are going to read 12 runs. In the second over, we got 10, we are going to read it. In third over, we got 5, we are going to read it. Okay. And we are going to add it to the total. So we are going to call it as total underscore runs is equal to total underscore runs plus runs of this over. So initially it was 0. So 0 plus 12 will be saved into 12 runs after 1 over. After second over, 12 plus 10 will be done. After third over, 12 plus 10 plus 5 will be done. Okay. And we will get the final output. Now let's print this. And I'm going to print total runs score. Okay. Is it clear? Let's run it. So once we run, we got the total runs scored in this match after 10 overs is 120. Okay. So if you see here, in the first attempt, we read 12 and we put it onto runs. Then we added this value of 12 into total runs. Okay. If हमने add कर दिया. So what happened? In the first step, the runs will be 12. Total runs will be 12. Then what we did? We read the second over. We have got the value 10 in the second over. Okay. We added 10 with total runs. So 12 plus 10, we have got what value? 22. 12 plus 10 is 22. So total runs become 22. Then again what we did? We read 5. We added 5 with total runs. So earlier it was 22. Now we added 5 on it. So it becomes 27. Similarly, when you will add up all these elements one by one, okay, when you add up all these elements one by one, finally, what you're going to get? You're going to get the output as 120. Is that clear? So when you add all these values, you're going to put all these values into runs and you're going to perform addition operation here. We're going to perform addition operation on every step here. And finally, you're going to print the total runs. Is it clear? Clear? Okay. Now let's see. We're going to take one more example. Let's say I've got one more problem statement. Another problem statement is, let's say, read a list of actors and say hi to Salman Khan. Let's say. Okay, so I'm going to have a list of actors. I'm going to check the list of actors, and I'm going to check if Salman Khan's come. I'm going to say hi to him. Okay, let's say. So let's say I've got a list of actors. I've got Salman. Oh, let's say I've got Amir. I've got Ranveer. Okay, I've got let's say Ajay, Devgan, something. Finally, I've got Salman at the last. Let's say. Okay, I've got these 4 actors. Now, I'm going to check for actor in actors. Okay, so here if you see, actor is a variable, and every individual name is going to come into this actor one by one. Okay, every individual name is going to come into this variable actor one by one. From where? From this list of actors. We're going to read every individual actor one by one. Okay. Once we have got the actor, now we are going to check the condition. If actor is equal to Salman, if the actor is equal to Salman, I'm going to print hello Sallu, something like that. Let's say. Else, I'm going to say chal bhag. Let's say. Okay. Okay, and I'm going to print the name of that actor also. Okay, I'm going to print the name of that actor. Clear? Let's run it. So once we run this now, we are going to read all those actors one by one. So first we have read Amir, then we have read Ranveer, third we have read Ajay, finally we have got Salman. Is that clear? So we have used a for loop. We have read all the values available in an iterable, and once we have got every individual value out, we have matched that with a condition, and we have printed the output. Okay, clear? Clear to everyone? Those who are connected online? Everyone, if there is a question, please tell me. What if I want sum of score in last 5 over? So you can consider if the iterable value is greater than 5, okay, then you can add on. If the iterable value is greater than 5, or else you can put a counter easily just to ensure that what value you need to check. So consider, let's say we have got a question wherein a user has asked if I want to add the sum of score in last 5 overs. Okay, so what we can do? Let's say. So now let's say we have a runs over list. Here is the list of runs over. Okay, these are the overs. Consider we want to sum last 5 elements. Okay, last 5 overs. Now what we can do? Let's say we're going to check a counter value. Okay, let's say counter is equal to 0. Initially, let's say the counter is equal to 1. Consider this first over. Let's say this is first over. Okay, now we are going to read for each over. Let's say for run, in runs for over. Okay, we're going to read it for the first counter. We're going to check if counter is greater than 5. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If the counter is greater than 5, then we are going to start adding the elements. Okay, so what we'll do, I'm going to make total runs. Initially, let's use it as 0. Then we are going to use total underscore runs is equal to total underscore runs plus your run, whatever run you have scored in this over. And finally, we're going to print total underscore runs. Okay. Now, what you need to do, for every over, you need to increment the counter. Okay. So what you can do, you can come to the next line. You can increment the counter here. Counter is equal to counter plus 1. Okay. We call it as increment counter per over. So we are in the first attempt, we are going to get counter equal to 1, condition will be false. Second condition will be false. Third, the condition will be false. Or else what we can do is, we can also print an else statement, else print over below 5, below 6. So let's say 6 to 10, we have to calculate. So we are going to print over below 6. So once the over is above 6, we are going to add the values. Okay. Let's run it. So once we run this now, so we are going to get it over below 6, 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 up till 5. And last 5 overs we have added. And we have got, okay, so you can quickly put it here. Sum of last 5 overs. When you run, you're going to get sum of last 5 overs is 72. So in the same way, you can read all the elements from this list, read every individual run. You can add it to the total runs if the over is above 5. Okay. So instead of counter, you can also change it to over. That will look much better. If over is greater than 5, okay, we are going to increment the over by over. Okay, let's run it. So if the over is above 5, you're going to get all the runs printed. Is that clear? Now, so this is how you can quickly implement for statements in Python. Okay. Okay, great. Now, what next you need to understand? Once you're done with that, now you need to understand range function, which is quite important. Okay, then you have break, you have pass statements, and then you can define the functions. Okay, not a problem. So what we'll do, that's all for the day. We'll continue in the next session from the concept of conditions, wherein we are going to explore the concepts of how we can process for loops with slice words, as well as we'll continue from the range function. Okay, is that clear? So that's all for the day. If anybody has any questions, please ask me. And stay tuned as we have another interaction session from 12:30 p.m. on 12:30 a.m. on 12:30 p.m. onwards. Thank you so much for everyone. Thank you so much everyone for being available. Thank you so much for watching.